a rural road through forested area in eastern Ukraine. 0720 hours on a recent winter morning. Temperature -19 °C with ground fog reducing visibility to 50 meters. Fresh snowfall overnight created pristine white surface showing all movement. A Russian mechanized column moving through restricted terrain. 147 vehicles in single-file column. 33 tanks, 42 infantry fighting vehicles, 72 trucks and support vehicles. 2,600 soldiers total. The column stretched 12 kilometers along single road through forest. Movement was slow, 15 kilometers per hour, due to snow, ice and limited visibility. Standard road march security with reconnaissance vehicles ahead. Security vehicles interspersed, rear guard following. Ukrainian forces had spent 6 days preparing ambush site. Detailed intelligence on Russian movement schedules. Precise timing of column passage. Ideal terrain. Road passing through narrow valley with steep wooded slopes both sides. Limited maneuver space. Single road with no bypass routes. Perfect kill zone 800 meters long. 17 minutes after lead elements entered kill zone, 112 vehicles would be destroyed or disabled. 1,863 soldiers would be killed or wounded. The column would be severed in 3 places, isolated segments destroyed systematically. The road march that seemed routine would become coordinated massacre. This happened days ago during period of reduced visibility from fog and snow. Wreckage blocks road preventing use by either side. The tactical implications of terrain-focused ambush in winter conditions continue being studied. This is what occurred during those 17 minutes. Ambushes represent fundamental military tactic, using terrain and surprise to attack enemy in disadvantageous position. Success requires detailed planning, proper positioning, coordination of fires, and most critically, denying enemy ability to maneuver or respond effectively. Winter conditions enhance ambush effectiveness. Restricted visibility aids concealment, limited off-road mobility channels movement, cold affects vehicle and weapon performance. Ukrainian forces had identified this route as primary Russian logistics corridor based on comprehensive pattern analysis over 3 weeks of continuous intelligence collection. Reconnaissance drones conducted daily surveillance flights, recording all vehicle movements along route. Pattern emerged. Convoys passed every 4 to 6 days. Timing was predictable within 2-hour windows. Security procedures were standardized and repetitive. Intelligence officers compiled detailed profiles of typical convoy composition, speed, spacing, and security measures employed. The route characteristics made it ideal target for ambush. Road followed natural terrain features through forested valley. Easiest path through otherwise difficult terrain meant traffic was channeled onto single predictable route. No viable alternate routes existed within 50 kilometers. Convoys had no choice but to use this road. This predictability eliminated primary uncertainty in ambush planning. Knowing when and where target would appear, intelligence collection determined typical convoy composition through analysis of thermal signatures, visual observation, and signals intelligence. Standard convoy included 30 to 40 armored vehicles, mix of tanks and infantry fighting vehicles providing security and combat power. 70 to 100 logistic vehicles, trucks, fuel tankers, supply carriers, comprising actual cargo being transported. Total vehicle count typically 100 to 150. This matched composition of observed approaching convoy. Security measures were assessed through observation of previous convoys. Reconnaissance vehicles preceded main body by 1 to 2 kilometers, scouting for obstacles or threats. Security vehicles were interspersed throughout column at intervals. Rear guard followed at tail of column. These measures provided security against small-scale attacks, but created vulnerability to properly planned ambush. Dispersed security meant mutual support was difficult. Long column meant communications were challenged. Standard procedures meant responses were predictable. The selected kill zone was 800-meter section of road passing through narrowest part of valley. Critical tactical features made this location optimal. Road was confined between steep wooded slopes rising 30 to 40 meters on both sides. Slopes prevented vehicle maneuver off-road. Road itself had no turnoffs, side roads, or bypass options for entire 800-meter length. Vehicles were channeled along single predictable path. Steep slopes provided elevated firing positions for ambush forces with clear fields of fire covering entire road section below. Forest on slopes provided concealment for positioning forces and equipment. Dense evergreen forest blocked visual observation from road or aerial reconnaissance. Thermal camouflage netting and careful positioning prevented thermal detection. Natural terrain features absorbed radar signatures. Ambush preparation could occur over extended period without Russian detection if proper camouflage discipline was maintained. Ukrainian forces began positioning over 6 days in extreme cold that tested endurance and discipline. Combat engineers moved first, tasked with emplacing anti-tank mines on road approaches at both ends of kill zone. Mines were carefully buried under snow and frozen earth at distances, calculated to trap maximum number of vehicles within kill zone while preventing escape. Mining work was slow and difficult in frozen conditions. Ground was frozen solid, requiring jackhammers and explosives to excavate holes for mine placement. Each mine required individual excavation, placement, concealment and marking for friendly forces. 23 TM62 anti-tank mines were emplaced over 2 nights of work, 13 at western approach, 10 at eastern approach. Mines were command detonated rather than pressure activated, allowing ambush commander to select optimal detonation timing. Infantry with anti-tank weapons positioned on slopes over following 4 days. Squads moved into positions during darkness to avoid aerial observation. Each position required excavation in frozen ground. Fighting positions providing cover and concealment for 2 to 4 soldiers with weapons. Positions were carefully sighted for optimal fields of fire. Overlapping coverage ensured every meter of road was covered by multiple weapons. Anti-tank weapons inventory was extensive and diverse. Primary weapons were RPG-7 launchers with tandem warheads effective against reactive armor. More modern systems included RPG-29 with enhanced penetration and AT-4 single-shot disposable launchers. Several Javelin systems provided fire-and-forget capability against vehicles throughout kill zone. Stugner P anti-tank guided missile systems positioned for long-range precision engagement. Each weapon position was supplied with ammunition calculated for expected engagement. RPG gunners carried 6 to 8 rockets each. Javelin teams had 4 missiles. Stugner P positions had 8 missiles. Total anti-tank capability exceeded 200 precision shots, more than sufficient for 150 vehicle convoy with tactical margin for misses and malfunctions. Artillery forward observers positioned for direct line-of-sight observation of entire kill zone. Observers had laser rangefinders, thermal optics, secure digital communications to artillery batteries positioned 15 kilometers distant. Pre-registered target coordinates covered entire road section in 100-meter grid squares. Fire missions were pre-planned for immediate execution upon ambush initiation. Supporting artillery included 2 S-1 Gvozdika 122 mm self-propelled howitzers and BM-21 Grad multiple rocket launchers. Total artillery allocation for ambush was substantial, 18 howitzers and 12 rocket launchers. Ammunition expenditure was authorized up to 150 howitzer rounds and 80 rockets. This massive fire support was justified by target value. Entire mechanized column representing hundreds of millions in equipment and thousands of personnel. Mobile anti-tank teams positioned on roads north and south of kill zone to engage vehicles attempting escape or retreat. These teams used pickup trucks with anti-tank weapons, allowing rapid repositioning to engage fleeing vehicles. Teams had instructions to destroy vehicles attempting to bypass ambush on alternate routes or flee along road away from kill zone. The preparation required soldiers to endure 6 days and 5 nights of extreme cold in concealed positions with minimal movement or support. Temperatures ranged from -15 to -20 Celsius during this period. Soldiers could not light fires, could not move freely to generate warmth, could not be resupplied with hot food or drinks. Food consisted of cold rations eaten in positions. Water was melted snow. Soldiers rotated in small groups to warming positions several hundred meters behind slope crest, but most time was spent in freezing positions. The physical and mental endurance required was exceptional. Soldiers developed minor frostbite on extremities despite best efforts. Several soldiers were evacuated with hypothermia symptoms before ambush occurred. Maintaining alertness and combat readiness while cold, hungry, and sleep-deprived required extraordinary discipline. That soldiers maintained positions effectively through these conditions demonstrated high unit cohesion and motivation. Communications discipline was absolute. Radio transmissions were prohibited except emergency traffic. Soldiers maintained radio listening watch but transmitted nothing that could be detected by Russian electronic warfare. Physical movement was minimized to prevent visual or thermal detection. Waste disposal was carefully managed to prevent evidence of occupation. The ambush force effectively disappeared into forest, waiting with patience measured in days for approaching target. Russian column departed depot at 0500 on schedule. Movement order was standard. Reconnaissance vehicles ahead, main body with security interspersed, rear guard following. Column commander received weather report, fog and snow reducing visibility but not preventing movement. Decision was continue with reduced speed and increased interval between vehicles. At 0720, lead reconnaissance vehicles entered kill zone. Ukrainian forces observed through thermal optics cutting through fog. Vehicles proceeded at 15 km/h on icy road. Spacing between vehicles was approximately 30 meters. Ukrainian commander waited for maximum vehicles in kill zone before initiating. At 0723, 47th vehicle entered kill zone while Vehicle 1 approached far end. Approximately 65 vehicles were in 800-meter zone. Ukrainian commander initiated ambush with prearranged signal. 3 illumination rounds fired by mortar to mark both ends of kill zone. Anti-tank mines detonated simultaneously at both ends as mortar illumination rounds burst overhead. Lead reconnaissance vehicle, BRDM-2 wheeled scout vehicle, struck mine detonation command triggered by engineer observer. 6 kilograms of TNT explosive vaporized front section of vehicle, killing crew instantly and creating burning wreck blocking road. At column tail, rearguard BTR-80 struck mine similarly, vehicle destroyed and road blocked. The column was effectively sealed in kill zone, vehicles unable to bypass obstacles on icy narrow road with steep slopes preventing off-road maneuver. Ukrainian infantry launched anti-tank missiles from slope positions with devastating systematic precision. Multiple teams fired simultaneously within 10-second window at visible targets through fog. RPG-7 teams engaged at ranges of 100 to 200 meters, optimal distance for accuracy while maintaining penetration capability. Modern AT-4 and RPG-29 systems engaged at extended ranges up to 300 meters. Javelin systems locked onto thermal signatures of running engines and fired in top attack mode, designed to strike weakest top armor. Targets were extraordinarily visible despite fog obscuring normal visual observation. Thermal optics penetrated fog effortlessly, displaying hot vehicle engines and exhausts as brilliant white signatures against cold gray background. Tank hulls retained substantial heat from running engines for hours, showing as distinct thermal sources. Infantry fighting vehicle turrets displayed thermal signatures from weapon systems and internal crew compartments. Even trucks showed clear engine compartment heat signatures and cargo area thermal profiles if carrying warm supplies or personnel. Hit probability was extraordinarily high at these close ranges with modern weapons. RPG-7 tandem warheads struck tank side and rear armor where protection was dramatically weaker than frontal glacis. Penetrations through 80mm side armor caused catastrophic kills as superheated penetrating jet ignited ammunition storage or fuel tanks, creating secondary explosions. Infantry fighting vehicles suffered turret penetrations, destroying weapon systems, fire control equipment, and killing entire crew instantly. Trucks exploded spectacularly when fuel tanks were punctured by any penetrating hit. Diesel fuel spraying under pressure and igniting created massive fireballs visible even through dense fog. First concentrated volley from anti-tank weapons destroyed or catastrophically disabled 23 vehicles in approximately 40 seconds of overwhelming coordinated fire. 7 T-72 tanks suffered catastrophic kills, penetrating hits detonating stored ammunition and blowing 15-ton turrets completely off vehicle hulls in classic jack-in-the-box effect. 9 BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles were mission killed. some by destroyed engines preventing mobility, others by penetrated fighting compartments, killing entire crews in single hit. 7 trucks destroyed outright, 3 fuel tankers creating massive fires spreading rapidly to adjacent vehicles through radiant heat and flaming fuel spillage. Ukrainian infantry launched anti-tank missiles from slope positions. Multiple teams fired simultaneously at visible targets through fog. RPG-7 and more modern systems engaged at ranges of 100 to 300 meters. Targets were clear despite fog, thermal signatures of running engines, visible hulls against snow. Hit probability was high at close range. First volley destroyed or disabled 23 vehicles in 40 seconds. Tanks were struck from flanks where armor was weakest. Infantry fighting vehicles suffered turret penetrations. Trucks exploded when fuel tanks were punctured. Crews attempted to return fire but couldn't identify attackers in fog and forest on slopes. Artillery fire began 90 seconds after ambush initiation. Pre-registered coordinates meant accurate fire despite limited visibility. High explosive rounds detonated along road among vehicles. Cluster munitions saturated area with sub-munitions targeting personnel evacuating vehicles. Smoke rounds added to obscuration, further reducing Russian ability to respond. Russian soldiers attempted dismount to engage attackers. Infantry in fighting vehicles and trucks evacuated to take fighting positions. The fog concealed friendly forces from each other. Units became disoriented in whiteout conditions with no visibility beyond meters. Officers couldn't coordinate defensive response when they couldn't see their own soldiers. Ukrainian infantry engaged dismounted Russians with precision fire. Thermal optics gave ambush forces enormous advantage. They could see targets clearly while remaining concealed. Russian soldiers, visible as thermal signatures against snow, were systematically engaged. Small arms fire from slopes killed or wounded soldiers attempting to find cover. Tank crews attempted to maneuver off-road, but terrain prevented. Steep slopes and deep snow meant tracked vehicles couldn't climb. Attempting to turn around in narrow road created traffic jams. Tanks became stationary targets for follow-up anti-tank strikes. Several tanks threw tracks attempting maneuvers on ice, immobilizing themselves. The column fragmented into isolated segments. Destroyed vehicles at mines created barriers. Additional destroyed vehicles throughout column prevented movement. Individual segments of 5 to 10 vehicles became isolated kill zones. Ukrainian forces engaged each segment systematically, preventing mutual support. Artillery continued throughout engagement. Forward observers adjusted fires using thermal observation. Ammunition expenditure was high, but effectiveness was devastating. Counter-battery fire from Russian artillery was ineffective. Fog prevented observation. Ukrainian artillery positions were outside Russian artillery range at prepared locations. Some Russian vehicles attempted fighting withdrawal. Vehicles at extreme ends of column outside kill zone tried backing away. Ukrainian mobile anti-tank teams positioned on road approaches engaged these vehicles. AT-4 and Javelin missiles destroyed vehicles attempting escape. None successfully withdrew. Russian casualties mounted catastrophically. Vehicles destroyed in initial minutes killed crews instantly. Infantry dismounting into kill zone were engaged by prepared ambush forces with overwhelming advantage. Wounded soldiers suffered from cold, blood loss and shock accelerated hypothermia. Medical evacuation was impossible with vehicles destroyed and roadblocked. The fog that aided Ukrainian concealment became death trap for Russians. Soldiers attempting to find cover became disoriented in whiteout conditions. Some wandered into Ukrainian positions and were captured or killed. Others became separated from units and froze in forest. The disorientation amplified casualties beyond direct combat. By 07:37, 17 minutes after initiation, Ukrainian forces ceased fire. Ammunition was expended, targets were destroyed, continuing engagement provided diminishing returns. Assessment showed column was comprehensively destroyed. Ukrainian forces withdrew before Russian reinforcements could respond. Damage assessment revealed devastating losses. 112 vehicles destroyed or disabled, 27 of 33 tanks, 34 of 42 infantry fighting vehicles, 51 trucks and support vehicles. Only 35 vehicles in column survived with capability to move. These were at extreme ends outside kill zone. Personnel casualties were severe. 1,863 killed or wounded from column strength of 2,600, 72% casualty rate. 1,270 confirmed dead, killed by anti-tank fire, artillery, small arms, or exposure. 593 wounded, requiring evacuation. Cold injuries compounded combat wounds. Shocked and bleeding soldiers rapidly became hypothermic in -19 °C temperatures. Medical response was catastrophically inadequate, given scale and severity of casualties, combined with extreme environmental conditions. Medical vehicles designated for column were among early casualties, destroyed by anti-tank fire or artillery strikes during initial minutes of engagement. Battalion aid station vehicles were burning wrecks unable to provide any treatment capability. Surviving medical personnel, perhaps 15 combat medics scattered throughout column, faced impossible task of treating over 1,500 casualties with minimal equipment in -19 °C temperatures under continued artillery fire. Wounded soldiers suffered from combination of traumatic combat injuries and accelerating cold injuries, creating deadly synergistic effect. Soldier hit by tank penetration fragments might have survivable abdominal wounds requiring surgery and blood transfusion within 2 hours for positive prognosis. But same soldier lying in snow in -19 °C rapidly developed hypothermia from blood loss and shock. Hypothermia impairs blood clotting, accelerates shock, and causes cardiac dysfunction. Wounds that might be survivable with rapid evacuation and treatment became fatal when combined with cold exposure. The cold affected wound physiology in multiple harmful ways. Blood loss causes hypovolemic shock. Reduced blood volume means inadequate circulation and oxygen delivery to tissues. Hypothermia exacerbates shock through peripheral vasoconstriction, further reducing tissue perfusion. Cold impairs blood clotting mechanisms through reduced enzyme function and platelet aggregation. Bleeding that might spontaneously stop at normal body temperature continues at low core temperature. Many soldiers essentially bled to death from wounds that would have been survivable in normal conditions because cold prevented clotting. Traumatic amputations from artillery fragmentation or vehicle explosions created massive hemorrhage requiring immediate tourniquet application. Combat medics applied tourniquets to control bleeding from partial or complete limb amputations. But tourniquets themselves create problems in extreme cold. Tissue distal to tourniquet receives no blood flow. At normal temperatures, this is tolerable for 2 hours. At -19 °C, exposed tissue freezes solid within 30 to 60 minutes. Soldiers with tourniquets for hemorrhage control also developed severe frostbite or complete freezing of extremities beyond tourniquet. Burns from vehicle fires combined with cold created particularly cruel injury pattern. Soldiers escaping burning vehicles suffered second and third degree burns on exposed skin. Hands, face, any skin contact with burning fuel or hot metal. Burned skin loses moisture barrier function and thermoregulation capability. Burned soldiers evacuating into -19 °C environment experienced rapid heat loss through damaged skin. Many burn victims died from hypothermia rather than burn injuries themselves. Damaged skin couldn't maintain core temperature in extreme cold. Psychological trauma of combat, combined with cold and pain, created mental health casualties. Soldiers witnessed comrades killed in explosions, heard screams of wounded, experienced terror of being trapped under fire, unable to escape or respond effectively. Some soldiers developed acute stress reactions, dissociation, emotional numbness, or panic preventing rational action. Cold impaired cognitive function even in uninjured soldiers. Hypothermia causes confusion and poor decision-making even before unconsciousness. Combination meant some soldiers made irrational decisions attempting escape or survival. The fog that concealed Ukrainian ambush forces became deadly disorientation factor for Russian casualties attempting survival. Wounded soldiers trying to walk away from engagement area became lost in fog within meters of starting point. Visibility under 10 meters meant soldiers couldn't navigate to safety, couldn't find other Russian forces, couldn't identify direction to friendly territory. Some wounded soldiers wandered in circles through fog until collapsing from exhaustion, shock, and hypothermia. Bodies were found weeks later hundreds of meters from road. frozen in positions where they fell after becoming lost and disoriented. Soldiers attempting to find cover in forest moved into dense undergrowth where movement was difficult and thermal insulation minimal. Snow depth in forest varied from 30 centimeters to over 1 meter in drifts. Wounded soldiers attempting to traverse deep snow exhausted rapidly, fell and couldn't rise. Wet clothing from snow contact accelerated hypothermia. Some soldiers crawled under evergreen trees seeking shelter, dying from hypothermia in positions that appeared to offer protection but provided inadequate thermal insulation. Medical evacuation was delayed catastrophically by a combination of ongoing engagement, terrain constraints, and weather. Helicopter evacuation was impossible. Fog prevented visual flight, ongoing artillery fire made landing zone too dangerous. Ground evacuation required ambulances to travel a long road blocked by destroyed vehicles and potentially remaining Ukrainian forces. Even if ground evacuation were possible, transport time to nearest field hospital was 7 hours minimum over snow-covered roads. This 7-hour evacuation timeline meant many wounded died from treatable injuries before reaching surgical care. Standard military trauma care doctrine emphasizes golden hour. Wounded have best survival probability if reaching surgical intervention within 60 minutes of injury. Wounds requiring immediate surgery, major vascular injuries, internal organ damage, crush injuries, cannot wait 7 hours without intervention. Even with field tourniquets and hemorrhage control, many casualties died during extended evacuation simply from time delay. Equipment losses exceeded $293 million. 33 tanks at average $8 million. 264 million. Infantry fighting vehicles and support vehicles, additional losses. Cargo included ammunition and supplies valued at 37 million, all destroyed or captured. The tactical impact was severe disruption of Russian logistics. Supplies carried by column never reached intended recipients. Forward units experienced shortages affecting operations. More significantly, road was blocked by wreckage preventing use of this supply route for weeks. Ukrainian tactical execution was exemplary. Intelligence collection identified target and timing. Terrain selection created ideal conditions. Preparation was thorough despite harsh conditions. Execution was coordinated and disciplined. Withdrawal prevented casualties from Russian response. The ambush achieved all objectives with minimal friendly losses. 3 wounded, 0 killed. The meteorological factor was force multiplier. Fog concealed Ukrainian positions while thermal optics penetrated fog to identify targets. Snow made off-road maneuver impossible. Cold created additional casualties among wounded. The winter conditions that were neutral environmental factor became tactical advantage for prepared force against unprepared enemy. Russian analysis identified multiple failures. Route was predictable, allowing ambush preparation. Security was inadequate, insufficient reconnaissance ahead, insufficient flank security, insufficient interval between vehicles. Response was poorly coordinated. Fog caused disorientation, artillery support was ineffective. Medical preparation was insufficient for mass casualty event in extreme cold. International observers studied engagement as example of how basic tactics remain effective in modern warfare. Ambush fundamentals, surprise, terrain advantage, coordinated fires, achieved devastating results. Technology enhanced rather than replaced fundamentals. Thermal optics, precision weapons, modern artillery amplified basic ambush principles. The road remains blocked weeks later. Destroyed vehicles are frozen in place. Bodies of soldiers who died from wounds and cold remain in wreckage. Ukrainian forces control area preventing recovery operations. The kill zone is visible evidence of how terrain, weather, and enemy preparation can defeat large force in minutes. The numbers define ambush catastrophe. 147 vehicles in column, 112 destroyed in 17 minutes. 1,863 casualties, 72% casualty rate, 293 million lost. Logistics corridor closed indefinitely. This is modern warfare, where ancient ambush tactics remain devastatingly effective, where terrain channels forces into kill zones, where 17 minutes destroys column that represented weeks of accumulated supplies and personnel. Welcome to warfare where roads become graves, where fog conceals death, where 17 minutes of coordinated ambush destroys reinforced mechanized column.